I have no one else like him who will show genuine concern for your welfare. I'm going to come back to that because I want to finish with that idea. But Paul then says in verse 21, for everyone looks out for their own interest, not the interest of Jesus Christ. When I show care for you, how am I serving Jesus? Well, I think he himself said, when you give a cup of cold water to someone who is thirsty, who have you done it for? Jesus said, you've done it for me. When you visit somebody in prison, who have we had the privilege to sit down and visit with? Jesus said, you visit me. When you feed somebody that's hungry or give clothes to somebody who's naked, Jesus says, you do it for me. And then Paul comes back and he says, of all the greatness that you've done, Philippi, there's a few of you who are looking out for your own interest, not the interest of Christ. So I am going to forget about what I need. I'm going to send Timothy to you. It wasn't only a commandment, it wasn't only a teaching, it wasn't only a statement, it was a demonstration of what he's talking about. Interesting thing about Paul, if you read in the New Testament, there are exactly 100 people that he calls friends. That's a lot of friends. And he names them by name and commends them by knowing them. How many of you have 100 Facebook friends? Do you really know them? Could you commend them by their actions? Probably not. That's a lot of friends is the point. And I wondered to myself, how did Paul have so many people that he cared about and cared about him? He used to kill the Christians. Well, I just answered the question, how did Paul have so many friends? He cared about them. I don't know if you've ever thought when you left worship services, oh, that singing, I didn't like those songs today. Or that sermon, man, I could have done a better job than that. Or people weren't friendly to me. Isaiah said in Isaiah chapter 58 in verse 10, and Isaiah wrote during the time that things were about as bad as they could be for Israel. They're about to be taken into captivity because of their sins. They were losing their houses. They were losing their nation. They were losing everything that's dear to them. And so Isaiah does two things in his book, primarily. He talks about Jesus. Isaiah is the first person in Isaiah chapter 7 that says, hey, a virgin's going to give birth to a kid. And this kid's going to be mighty counselor, Prince of Peace, and he's going to change things. And then later on he says this kid, born of a virgin, Isaiah 53, is going to die on a cross. And he won't be good looking, but he'll love you and bear your sins. And those sins even will become white as snow, the verse that we saw earlier. But he also says, you know, Israel, the way you're going to make it through is not worry about what you've lost, but look forward to what you might gain. And then in Isaiah chapter 58 verse 10, he says, spend yourself on behalf of others. And spend means to give all that you have, your money, your clothes, everything you possess. Give it all away. Give everything you have to other people, and God will take your night and he will change it to noontime. Noontime's the best part of the day. It's when the sun is the highest and you're the warmest and it's the brightest and everything becomes clear. And he's talking to a group of people that are struggling, and he says, let me give you a hint. Give it all. Psychologists will tell us that if we're struggling with depression, and I'm not undermining the importance of depression, or if we're feeling sorry for ourselves, or if I'm so low I need a work, go do something for somebody else. And that's one of the best remedies that you can have. That's biblical in nature. So, Paul says, I got a little problem with you, Philippi. Everyone looks out for his own interest. Have you forgotten Jesus? Let's send a Valentine's, and let's be Thanksgiving this week too, but let's send a Valentine's to Jesus by doing something nice. For I'm sending Timothy. I have no one else like him. Literal Greek words, there's two of them here. I have no one who is a kindred spirit like Timothy. Well, to Paul the writer, the words meant, I have no one that's knit themselves in my heart so intertwined that we can't be separated like Timothy. That's why he could send him, because even if he's out of sight, he's never out of mind. Sometimes I might not be here, but I want to be missed. It's the kind of church that I want to be a part of, kind of body that I want to exist here. Or if something goes wrong, that even when I smile and say, oh, I'm doing okay, you'll see through it. And you'll say, be honest with me, Mike, because look at what it says about Timothy. He shows genuine concern. That's not asking how you doing and walking off before you get the answer. That's asking how you doing and pausing to hear what the other person says. I want to finish with a little reading today. I found a book for $3.98 or less on iBooks. I don't know if you've seen that down at the bottom. And I've enjoyed a couple of them. One was about a spy, and it was really interesting how he was trained. And then one of them was on physics, and I was interested in that. But there's $3.98 book, and it's called The Miracles of Medicine. And I thought, well, for $4 I'll give it a try. But the author of it doesn't, and I thought, being a neurosurgeon, that he would talk about the great work that he did, how they can take tumors out of people's brains, and how they can take and fuse people's spine back together, so someone who had maybe been given the prognosis that they never walk again is walking now. That's what I thought that I would read about. But every little section is devoted to one of his patients, where he saw great strength in people without hope. And he said the miracle of medicine is not the doctors, but the people who live through some of the things they have to live through, and they keep on. Well, his last story is not even about the patient, and this is what I read. He says, I stand by the bed where a young woman lies, her face post-operative, her mouth twisted in palsy, clownish in nature. A tiny twig of the facial nerve, the one of the muscles to her mouth, has been severed. She will be this way from now on. I had followed with religious fervor the curve of her flesh, I promise you that. Nevertheless, to remove the tumor in her cheek and to save her life, I had to cut that little nerve. Her young husband was in the room. He stands on the opposite side of the bed, and together they seem to dwell in the evening lamplight, isolated from me, private. Who are they, I ask myself, he and this wry-mouthed, disfigured person that I have made, who gaze at and touch each other so generously, so greedily. The young woman tries to speak, and you can barely make out her words. Will my mouth always be like this, she asks, as she looks into the mirror. Yes, I say, it will. It's because the nerve was cut. She nods and is silent, but the young man smiles. I like it, he says. It's kind of cute. It makes you different. It makes you mine. All at once I know who he is. I understand, and I lower my gaze. One is not bold in an encounter with someone who acts like Christ. Unmindful, he bends to kiss her crooked mouth, and I'm so close I can now see he twists his own lips to accommodate hers, to show her that their kiss will still work together. And then I write this: us with crooked mouths, greet one another with a holy kiss. Romans chapter 16.
Amen.